Thank you. Tinotenda, as they say where I'm from. Oh God, Beth, you got me crying already. It's all Beth Cleary's fault. I just want to thank, to begin with, President Rosenberg, this amazing faculty, amazing Board of Trustees, an amazing student body, and everyone who's here today to celebrate this astounding group of young citizens who are about to take the world by storm, class of 2016. Thank you all. I was pretty amazed when President Rosenberg asked me to come here today to speak, to receive this. I was sure I'd just left college a few years ago. I mean, how the heck am I the one standing up expected to give gems of wisdom and guidance to graduates? Time is a funny thing, because no matter how vivid my remembrances are of making my own red meat-free concoctions in Kagan, or watching naked streakers run through the quad, or making out with my then boyfriend in my insanely oversized Doty single Don't Hate, or those dudes playing bagpipes, God bless them, rehearsing right outside my window early Saturday mornings. Why? No matter how recent that feels, I graduated 15 years ago. Man, I've had to take a minute before I could digest that fully. I mean, 15 years, I mean, dang. Reflecting on that time makes me realize how doubtless I am that this was the best college for me. There's no other school I would rather have graduated from. No other. I had the time of my life on these grounds, in these buildings. Challenges, heartbreaks, best friendships forged, mind transformed, breakthroughs realized, identities shapened, ideals cemented, revolutions devised, outrage upon outrage upon outrage, creations born, destinies defined. I'm not entirely sure who I would be if I hadn't spent that time in this place. And the support, man, to this day, I have support from folks I met here in this institution, confidants, advisors, mentors, best friends from here. To this day, I gravitate towards living in communities that look a little bit like Mack. The East Village in New York City, Silver Lake in Los Angeles, Inman Park, Little Five Points in Atlanta. Diverse and daring folks from across the globe, artists and hipsters, who may not embrace daily personal hygiene practices, but who are freely expressing a different way of facing the world. A world that often tells us exactly who and what to be. There was a safety I felt here, to make attempts, to pursue ideas, to believe I could make an impact. I remember when a whole bunch of student organizations were fighting for something or other. There was always something we were fighting for. Maybe it was the establishment of a multicultural division in the structure of the school. Maybe it was against the use of sweatshops for school memorabilia, who knows. But we were protesting, meeting late at night, devising ways to impact the administration, ways they could not ignore, get them to the table, make them hear what must be done, and do it. And I remember, even back then, as a girl in my late teens or early 20s, I got it. I had the thought that proved itself to be absolutely true. This place was preparing me for the larger world. Not just in the sense of having a degree that states my GPA and my focus of study, but in the sense that I was going to face institutions in the larger world of all sorts, and that I would need to challenge them. I would need to persevere to enact change upon them. I would need to speak up for others, to attempt to empower people other than myself. I realized I was in a microcosm of what the larger world was going to present to me, a very benevolent microcosm. One that sometimes it seemed, despite itself, was training me up for what it would take to become a change maker, for what it would take to make sure my voice was clear not just to the world, but to myself. And for that, and what it would take to be a person who stood by the courage of her own convictions. And that is a key thing that this school gave me, and I'm pretty sure it gave each one of you as well. It's what I now term the Mack moment. The Mack moment is that singular moment of realization and self-discovery that may just stay with you for the rest of your life. It may just define who you go on to be and what you go on to contribute, if you let it. My Mack moment was actually not physically at Mack. I was on my semester abroad, that sacred McAllister tradition that insists you leave the nest and nurture your global citizenship. I was in Cape Town, South Africa, where I was a part of a program called Arts and Social Change. It was based in the University of Cape Town. I had actually wanted to go to Durban and do that program, which was solely focused on politics, but it was full by the time I applied, so I had to settle for the artsy one. And though I was involved in the arts, I didn't think it had the meat or the muscle to exact my ambitions to be a change maker in the world. But that semester changed everything. I encountered artists who used their voice to combat the injustices of apartheid, at much risk to their safety and that of their families, who brought awareness through their craft, through storytelling that made the need for the world to pay attention to the harrowing experiences of those under this oppressive system personal and urgent. And I knew I had to change up my plans. I sat in that UCT campus staring out over that stunning Table Mountain and decided to do something that has defined my path ever since. I decided to follow my heart, and my heart wanted to tell stories rarely told, rarely heard. My heart wanted to explore the dramatic arts, to give voice to African women and place their narratives center stage. I would retain my psych major because it all related after all, and I kind of loved the psych department. But I would apply to grad schools in the dramatic arts. Security be damned. It was one of those defining and the most freeing moments of my life, and it was all Mack devised. The first thing I did was share my new ambition with Mack professors, Peter Ratcliffe and Beth Cleary. They were ecstatic because they said, and I will never forget these words, as I begged them to let me tell my psych profs in my own time, they said, "You have the power, Danai." I didn't dare think too hard about what that meant. I just knew I would follow my heart right through to the end, wherever it would be. And with that type of belief and encouragement to lean on, what excuse could I possibly employ? That was my Mack moment. And without it, who knows what I'd be doing right now, or if I would have followed the same path with the same timing, or if I would have attempted to conform to a less risky professional ambition. What is your Mack moment? You may not have realized that you've had one, but I bet you did. It's that moment where your heart breaks through and defines your destiny to you, if you dare to listen. Now your job, as you leave dear old Mack, is to protect your Mack moment. Guard it like Fort Knox, because the world will not be kind to your Mack moment. The world will tell you to throw it away, to join the crowd, to be like everybody else, to accept that this is just the way things are. You will be enticed by high-paying, bloodless, heartless jobs. The need to just get along, the need to please, the paralysis of complacency. You will be told what you envision is utterly preposterous and implausible. You will be undervalued and underappreciated, and you will miss this benevolent microcosm dearly. But you can always reach back to that Mack moment if you guard the heck out of it. Yes, it needs to be guarded. And it needs armor from the attack that the world will bestow. You have to put on your armor. So what does putting on your armor even mean? Well, firstly, it's real. You can't just be out here naked and exposed and expect to keep your heart's ambition intact. Your armor is going to be specific to you, and you now have to set out and discover what it will be. What keeps your Mack moment safe and alive inside of you. I found my armor piece by piece over the years. I remember getting struck by fear and anxiety while performing my first play in the Continuum. The accolades had come. The play was on its own stage off Broadway, and I got hit with a whole lot of irrational anxiety. And I had to combat it so that I could get on that stage every day and tell the story of a woman in Southern Africa who discovers she's HIV positive while pregnant. I had to tell that story for all those women on the continent who don't get to tell their stories to the world themselves. But anxiety and fear, oh man, they started to mess with me, and I needed some armor, because I was doing exactly what my Mack moment had described, and yet, suddenly, I was terrified. My armor came in the form of leaning into my spiritual practices, psalm after psalm after psalm, and music. Oh, yes, the music. Transforming my feelings and thoughts through Get Up by Jill Scott, Closer to My Jeans by Gopele, and Optimistic by the Sounds of Blackness. Oh man, how many fearful moments Sounds of Blackness got me through. You want to talk about Mack support? I wouldn't be Michonne without Optimistic by Sounds of Blackness, emboldening me when I went through that final audition. I wouldn't be killing no zombies. Have a song, y'all, have a song. I now know that music is a part of my armor. It transforms the atmosphere, and sometimes that's all we can control. You may not be able to control your environment, but you can always control your atmosphere, placing you in a zone that no one can disrupt. Fear and anxiety will come to most of us, most all of us. The key is to refuse to let it stop you. Courage, they say, isn't about being fearless. It's about doing it despite the fear. Fear is designed to rob you of your Mack moment. And man, it has tried that on me many a time. I also found armor for my Mack moment in the form of what I now call my village. Who is your village? The people who believe in your Mack moment ambitions and will aid and protect them and you through the tough times, through the pains, through the doubts. I remember utterly despairing. It was some years ago, and I was due to go to Liberia to research the play that's now on Broadway, Eclipsed. I was near broke and had received one of those grants that tell you to go spend money you don't have, bring them the receipts, and then they'll give you some money. Well, I didn't have that first part covered, especially when I took into account my New York rent and other expenses. I remember being a little peeved that I didn't have a commission. Had I not proven myself through the success of In the Continuum? And Lynn Nottage, the Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright, said to me when I lamented, "Do it on your own. You don't need institutional support. You need to pursue your vision on your terms." That freed me up from any grudge or righteous indignation I was harboring and set me straight. I humbly had to share with other friends my need for support, and two dear friends of mine told me to do a rent party. They would match whatever was donated. It was beyond humbling to reach out to folks and ask for financial support to go to Liberia to learn these women's stories, but I did it. And folks came out for me, $30 here, $50 there, $20 there. And soon enough, with that and the match from my friends, Charlie and Stephen Reed, I was able to get on a plane and go to West Africa, scared out of my living mind, but able to do it, and doing it anyway. Without that village, who knows if Eclipse would exist? I also lean on what I call my fairy godmamas, the Maya Angelos, the Harriet Tubmans, the Wangari Maathais, my own grandmother, Miriam Mutambara Chiza. Women who lived lives of power and purpose, who I look to when I feel weakened and uninspired, when I'm dealing with unfair circumstances or ignorance. Their words, their examples get me back on my feet, re-energize me, and remind me upon whose shoulders I stand. Find your village. You're gonna need one. The final piece of the Mack moment armor that I can offer is to nurture what I now call the Mack Muscle. Your Mack Muscle is that bundle of experiences, interests, and intentions that keep you nourished and enriched. Counter the deadening, commonplace, popular culture fixations that often do nothing but distance you from that moment of inspiration and actualization. Focus on what matters, what inspires, because at times it will be a challenge and hard to reconnect to this dear old place and all that grew inside of you. Because now that I am 15 years removed, dang, I can honestly say these were the smartest 4 years of my life. I'm far dumber now than when I was on this campus. I miss the smartness of the sharpness of the minds I experienced in these buildings, the global concerns that were always on the table. But I take from that the need to be in the know, to nurture my own global citizenship, to grab hold of information and knowledge, to refuse to be complacent. I feel deeply unhealthy if I'm not engaged by global affairs, if my mind is out of sync with what is happening in the larger world around me. Recently, I began a dedication initiative where at the end of each Eclipse performance on Broadway, we give voice to names of girls still in captivity. We then equip our Broadway audiences with information that will give them tools to connect with this global gender-based terror that is sexual violence and conflict. I realized, digging deeper into this play's purpose, into how it can function as a platform for activism, was that good old Mack Muscle, insisting I do more than lap up the praise for putting on an all-black and all-female production on Broadway. That muscle was nurtured here. It was cut and toned in the hallways of Olin and the foyer of Weyerhaeuser and the living room of the Culture House and the basement of DeWitt Wallace. And it's up to you now to keep that muscle strong. Trust me, there won't be near as many tools out there to do so, readily at your disposal. You're gonna have to seek it out and be deeply intentional about it, constantly challenging yourself to explore and discover, to nurture your outrage, to extend yourself to causes and concerns even when it's inconvenient. That is the only way the muscle doesn't atrophy and the armor stays intact. So there it is, class of 2016. 15 years later, that's what I know for sure. Who knows what the next 15 years will bring? When people talk of what I have done since I left, I don't have too much of a response, just because my eye is so focused on what I need to get done. But I know that I know that I know there is no way whatever I have done would have been done without keeping my Mack moment of self-realization alive. So the thing I can tell you, without a shadow of a doubt, is that you are entering a battlefield, and it will seek to rob you of the originality you found in yourself here. That voice you got to explore here, that feeling of self-confidence and clarity of your purpose on earth, that Mack moment, be it while you were singing in the gospel choir or the a cappella groups, or studying abroad in Cambodia, or planning the QU dance, or interning at the Center for Survivors of Torture, or creating a new organization that has benefited many, all those moments of breakthrough and validation you received here will be challenged by a world that tells you to fit into a very simple mode. And that's where the Mack muscle has to come into use. You see, class of 2016, the world needs you. It really does. It needs your mind. It needs your individuality. It needs your vision, your tenacity, your courage, your beliefs, your originality. And I can't wait to see what you guys bring. Because God knows McAllister attracts the most unique and globally concerned individuals you will find anywhere. Let yourselves be driven by your outrage, by your hope, and by your love. Don't let anything you face out there rob you of that, of this. The world is yours to shape and make better. Congratulations, makorokoto, as we say in my language, class of 2016. I cannot wait to see what you do with the Mack inside of you. Thank you.